You know, I,
Yeah.
I want to ask you about one of the things you mentioned in your comments, and that is, or rather hinted to, and that is the transgender protection policy. Now, this is a policy that was brought in by the government, but like like with a lot of actually beneficial causes, this actually faced some kind of resistance, I believe, from a section of activists. But I mean, putting aside the activists for a moment, can you tell us about what the transgender protection policy entails, and how what kind of an impact does it have on the community?
See, again, few people from, Tamil Nadu, some of my friends, of course, sadly, who have a very opposite political views. They have sold themselves to communist Marxist party, or like, and they want to call themselves as Ambedkarites by, and their Ambedkar right, their Ambedkarism has a lot to do with Lenin and Marx and Mao and Chinese government and the Marxist Communist Party's headquarters than Baba Sahib Ambedkar or the Buddha Dharma or the dharmic values which he is talking about. So, for example, these activists were brought to Delhi, and like they were trained, and like more than like crores of money were invested. Like such the Hijra Nayaks. Like I earlier told you that you know if 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 I want to become a Hijra, like I need to pay 2.5 to 3 lakh rupees. That is $2,000 to $3,000 to some the Hijra Nayak, and then like this person will kind of allow me to do the reassignments, gender, affirming surgery. And then like after that, they'll be forcing me into the prostitution and begging. We have a person who completed her MBBS studies in Madurai Government Medical College with 67 percentage. She is forced into prostitution and she don't want to come out of it because she's threatened by them, and like she don't know, once you enter that, there is no escape. This is happening in this 21st century where we talk about BLM and all these things. And those activists who, protested in Delhi, they were like, warriors against caste atrocities, and like, they were closely associated with, Equality Lab or like Project Mukti or all this, a lot of, kind of self-proclaimed, um, you know, um, Dalit, Dalit rights movements or whatever it is. Mm, I don't know how many Dalits they really served. Most of them will be political, Dalits than the actual, So when you see these people, they never question the systematic oppression within this community. They legitimized it. The media simply followed it, from New York Times to the Times of India to the Hindu to every single newspaper, the Hindustan Times, and every single newspaper, every single idiotic opinion maker who didn't know the ground reality, who don't understand the trauma, of what I went through, this community members went through, sitting on glass towers, writing opinions. The bill, which was introduced by the BJP government, did had a lot of issues with the definitions because they failed to differentiate the difference between sex characteristics and gender identity and expression. That is, they thought intersex and transgender people to be same, which is unscientific. But it was later rectified. We are also still working on various issues related to the act, which is no more a bill now. When the bill in the earlier format, like the earliest bill, when we see the private members bill, it was introduced by Trichy Shiva, one of my friend, of course. She drafted it, and I also gave inputs to the bill, and I also introduced this DMK MP to some of our friends. So then, like they also supported him. But his legislation was not practical. Policies or policies when they are practical, when they are not practical, they are mere papers. It is useless. So, um, huge protest, went there, and like from Human Rights Watch to every single organization, American Watchdogs to every single international organization, from this, I don't know what UNHRC High Commissioner know about all this insider's perspective. She also, loosely kind of released certain statements against the bill and all that. None of these people know that a kind of a grand mafia, works around these people, and then they push them into prostitution and begging. Majority of the people are doing begging and prostitution. Because of that, my friend Swapna and me protested on the road in 2012 and again in 13 because she was not allowed to appear for UPSC. Later in TNPSC, she was allowed to appear, and she became the India's first trans woman gazetted official. She's the first transgender person to write the state civil service examination as a transgender person. She is posted as assistant commissioner for commercial tax department in Shivagangai district. She lost sub-collector posting in 15 marks. I mean, there are trans women, people like her, living with us. She didn't have money to buy her books. Some women working in Anganwadi who lost a child, she paid the fees of Swapna, not her community members. Our community is our first enemy. So the present BJP's legislation is the first legislation which penalize the very kind of, parents who have transgender children, who kind of, abandon, if they are abandoning their child, they are abandoning their son or a daughter just because they have a transgender identity, they will be punished under this law. If a transgender person cannot acquire a property, if a transgender person cannot be allowed inside if they are facing discrimination while joining in a university or college or school, wherever, this law can be used. Um, you know, After 8 years, with the help of this law, I helped a trans woman to get her property, mother's share of her property. Which is after saying that, a lot of trans women came and said like, oh, we need to get our properties too. So 8 years of struggle. Can you imagine? Like, so there are a lot of good things like that. For example, like a 14 years old child, left the home, and the parents don't want to keep them. uh, okay, like we cannot simply, okay, we can also kind of impose certain law on them, but where are we going to keep this child? Like after we made the child to appear in front of the child welfare committee, who are clueless about non-binary and transgender children. After making them to appear, they are sending the such children back to the Jamaat system, where they will be going and begging and doing sex work. So where this law is helping, will help us to establish shelter homes for non-binary children, transsexual children, trans children. mm, you know it will help the future to not get inside this horrible kind of Jamaat system, the Hijra Jamaat system, or a transgender Jamaat system, or Haveli system, which will force them into prostitution and begging. So people legitimized this Jamaat system, begging and prostitution. They want the government to nationalize begging and prostitution. How come any government in the Western countries also can do it?
Right.
The point is that when this bill, that's why, Satyameva Jayate, like that we say, right? So whatever is truth, it won in the end of the day, thousands of people protested, only less than like very few people supported this. But at the end of the day, already it is a law now. Protection, Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019, hereafter it will be referred as law. Hereby, it's like we are already using the sections for, like, I've been handling 36 cases. I'm not paid for handling all these cases. I don't even have an office to handle too many stuffs I'm handling here. Mhm. But how come we can legitimize a system which is forcing more than 2.5 crore people into begging and prostitution through this Jamaat system? If the Jamaat and the Jamaat system, the transgender and Hijra Jamaat system or Havelis are like heaven to these people, how many of them, were allowed to, go and study in an educational institution or complete their studies? A person who completed her MBBS, who appeared for NEET examinations and completed her, MBBS in a government medical college in Tamil Nadu, which is tougher than getting inside IIT, with 67%. At present, she is doing brothel. We don't want people to get inside such system. And we are trying to do something ethical, because the government need to focus on the welfare, and they need to confer the constitutional rights. They cannot, kind of give them a comfortable life. They need to take care of their comfortable life. Government is not there to give comfortable life to people. Government or the policies must meet the basic necessities. Of course, we have problem in meeting the basic necessities, and the present government is rigorously working on it. From digitalizing the payments to the transgender people during this Corona, time, to every single aspect you see with the present governance. Of course, I do have problem with certain bureaucrats, but then we sit and work with them. This is constructive activism.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.